October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Joining me with what's being done about the dangers internet users face is my guest, Darin Andersen, with the California Cybersecurity Task Force and founder and president of CyberTECH, a San Diego coalition of nearly 50 cybersecurity firms. And Darin, a teenager has claimed to have hacked into the email account of the head of CIA. How big of a threat, then, is a cyber attack to, say, the average person?
Well, some people would argue that everybody's been hacked. So in that sense, we're all at risk, or we've all already been hacked.
How common are teenage hackers? Is that a growing thing that teenagers are doing?
It's probably growing, but in some ways, the roots of hacking starts with teenagers. Those that are sitting home bored, and they started playing on their computers, and that sort of led initially to like mischief, like what can I break into? So it's kind of, in a way, like in the roots.
Now, is there any idea on how this teen could have hacked into these elite sites?
Well, assuming that it is a teen, and that's something that has been attributed to that because they called the Washington Post and said, I'm a teen and I hacked into this computer.
And they posted quite a bit of details.
Yes, so clearly we know that the account was hacked. And what happened is a social engineering attack where they were able to obtain the director's telephone number. They then use that to reverse and get some credit card information, enough to call up the ISP provider and get the credentials for the director's personal email account. Once they had that, they were then in, as they say, and able to look at all the documents that were contained and the emails contained in that email.
That's one way to do it. People trying to glean information from people who shouldn't give them to them. But most of us remember the massive data breach at Target back in 2013. How big of a problem is cybersecurity for American businesses?
It's it's becoming an increase. It's been a big issue for at least 10 years, if not more. We've had a number of adversaries with different political and economic motivations across the world that have been breaking into our computers, and especially business computers, for some period of time. Very significant, trillion-dollar problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, per incident, it's a few $1 million per incident, and then in Target's case, it costs them a lot of money. Yeah,
so far we've calculated about $260 million in brand and sort of damage, if you will, to Target. They'll probably come through fine. A lot of times, believe it or not, the companies and the stock price come through even stronger, but it definitely is a setback for the reputation and for the customers as well.
Now, getting back to personal privacy protection, these credit card chips that are in credit cards that a lot of us have now, what are they designed to do and how effective are they?
Well, what it does is it provides an additional form of identification. It links that credit card to somebody specific, and you read them in a machine in real time, and it gives that second form of authentication.
So do you think they're more protective, or do you think it's false security?
No, I think it's better. I think the Europeans have been using that system for well over 10 years. It's served them well. It's better than what we have now. And with security, it's always what I call half the distance to the wall. You're trying to get a little bit better and a little bit more secure, every day.
Well, speaking of which, what are some of your best ways at home and at work to protect your online or cybersecurity?
Well, the first thing you can do is just what I call basic cyber hygiene. Make sure that you're changing your passwords on a regular basis. Have a smart password, something that is hard for other people to crack. It could be a long sentence. It doesn't have to be a tricky, password that has all sorts of funky characters. Use a long phrase, something that allows you to remember it, and also to be something that somebody is unlikely to guess. Don't use things like your mother's maiden name, date of birth. Those are all things that hackers are aware of, and they're going to try to break into your account with that information.
So things we've heard before: change your passwords often, make sure you have a good password. Anything else?
Don't share your passwords. I would also say be aware. I call it, don't walk down a dark street in Paris. It's all about making sure that you're not creating a footprint for you to be vulnerable. So be smart. It's about making sure that you're not sharing your information when you shouldn't, your basic hygiene of passwords and so forth. So again, it's like be aware of your surrounding and your cyber footprint.
Now, what should you do if your privacy has been compromised?
Well, there's a couple ways to go. You can actually call the local police department. They have procedures. Normally, they'll point you back towards the FTC. You'll file a case there. And actually, that case number will follow you with all your credit card vendors. It's a pretty well-established procedure now.
All right, Darin Andersen, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.